ठीक है, आप जब बोलेंगे कि अवनी मैम यू कैन स्टार्ट तब मैं स्टार्ट करूँ।
ओके, हाँ ठीक है। भी ऊपर लाइव आएगा, उसके बाद हम लोग स्टार्ट करेंगे। एट शार्प 11:30 वी कैन स्टार्ट। હા એન્ડ નેક્સ્ટ માટે એન્ટર કરવાનું છે ને? આના સાઈડમાં ના આવે આને? આઈ ક્યાં ગયું? તો પછી મારું સ્ટોપ શેરિંગ માટે મારે કેવું કરવાનું? ડબલ ક્લિક કરું ના?
Rajeshri madam, you can start.
हाँ 1 minute सर।
गूगल मीट में जता કેવું આઈડિયું હા ત્યાં જઈને કરો
ઓકે તો બીજી સ્લાઇડમાં જઈને કરું એવું? ઓકે
ત્યારે આ ત્યારે હાઈડ કર દો સ્ટોપ શેરિંગ કર
ના રહેવા દો, પાછો પ્રોબ્લેમ થશે તો પાછો। હા મેમ ના 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 પેલી પ્રિન્ટ આઉટ આપી હતી ને ના એવું કશું નથી અત્યારે તો।
Rajeshri madam, you are live.
ઓકે 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 welcome to Parul University, Miss Avni ma'am. Good morning one and all. I Professor Rajeshri Kokate. Let me take an opportunity to invite our guest speaker Miss Avni Jain to online platform of Parul University today. Before we quick start the session, I will share the successful path of the journey. Miss Avni Jain acquired the architecture degree from IED Vallabh Vidyanagar, Gujarat. Her desire to grow a sustainable organic farm led her something noble in her work far away from her core branch architecture and got her into the world of natural ecosystem. She studied Amrut Krishi Vignan under the guidance of late Sri Deepak Ji Sachdev. She also studied the permaculture from G. of Lawton Institute of Permaculture Design, Australia. She set up Upaj Eco Farm in 2010 to research and share the knowledge on how urban dwellers can grow chemical products in space in their own homes. She has conducted over 350 workshops in various subjects regarding the awareness related to urban farming where all age groups can equally participate in growing organic vegetables. She strongly believes that a simple hobby like gardening, if taken seriously by all, can help in reversing huge crises like climate change. In 2016, Upaj launched GIY, Grow It Yourself Kit by Upaj is a biodegradable gardening kit designed and manufactured in Vadodara, distributed through retailer, distributor, and modern trade network all over India. It is now sold through the modern trade stores like Landmark, Hamleys, Crossword, and many local toy stores in different cities all over the country. Miss Avni Jain has got the many awards and recognition. Like Miss Avni Jain has won the Planet's Pride Award in 2018. Her work has been featured in many e-magazines like Your Story and Better India. She has written a gardening column for Times of India. She has also been featured in a print in Divya Bhaskar, Abhiyan, Femina, etc. So now I welcome Ms. Avni Jain ma'am on behalf of Parul University, Head of the Department of Professor Bindi Thakkar ma'am and staff members of Mechanical Department of Diploma Studies to start the session. Avni ma'am, you can start your session. Screen sharing बंद करो.
Good morning. Good morning, Rajeshwari ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am.
And Parul University students and other members who have joined us live. This is my first live session and it looks very interesting. Firstly, because of getting the virtual flowers that I've got. This is the first time somebody has given me virtual flower bouquet, and it's really interesting how times have changed post-COVID. Hopefully for the betterment of the environment. So, well, tomorrow is World Environment Day, and with what is happening around us globally, the most popular quote trending right now is that we have met the enemy and it is us. So, good morning, everybody. Welcome to this special session on World Environment Day. We have gathered here to examine how we have got ourselves in this place and how we can possibly unlock ourselves from this situation. A lot of people ask me, how can one's interest in growing their own food or taking interest and maintaining their own home garden possibly have help in solving the acute and giant environment crisis that we have today? The answer to this can be understood if we try to understand our schooling system and their importance all over the world. School-going children often ask, what is the point of learning so much intensive mathematics and details of science or languages when we don't use them in daily adult life? So the answer to this is that the schooling helps discipline a young mind to be able to sit and concentrate at a task at hand and find a solution to the problem. It coaches you to work hard. It helps teach young children the importance of scheduling activities and value of time. Rajeshri ma'am, can you switch
Yeah,
off
ma'am.
your mic, please? Because
Yeah.
it is there is noise in the background.
Okay.
So, apart from teaching you to arrive at a solution of an intricate calculus problem, a schooling also has many tangential benefits and it helps in shaping the society at large. Similarly, if one caters to a space they have outside the four walls of a home, you will definitely be able to enjoy the beauty and taste some homegrown harvest. But there are many tangential benefits as well. Primarily, it will become a bond between you and Mother Nature. As humans living in cities, we have forgotten that we are connected to nature and thus to the environment at large and the planet. We will get sensitized to other living creatures, birds, animals, insects. Such a sad incident happened earlier this week regarding the elephant. And it is just unbelievable that humanity has come to such a point where we feed crackers to an elephant. If you have a garden, you will learn to appreciate living creatures other than yourself. You will be more aware and sensitive to even creepy, crawly creatures because you will understand that they have a larger influence and they are very necessary for maintaining a larger ecosystem. You will take interest in smaller things like composting. You will reduce use of plastic. You will begin to recycle and reuse old items. You will become more conscious and want to examine what and how you consume. You will also become sensitive, most importantly, to what you discard. Because what you reject is the waste that we create, and that is what the planet is suffering today. You will definitely become more mindful of the impact your small actions have on Mother Nature. So today on World Environment Day, I invite you all to join me in this small journey to grow your own urban micro farm, and how you can do it, and what small changes you can make in your own home to accommodate a garden that you have, and so on. I will take you into a small presentation now, and you will be able to see some pictures as we go through it. I am opening my presentation at the moment. Rajeshri ma'am, you can see the presentation? Okay, I hope you can see the presentation that is going on
Yes, ma'am.
at this
Yes,
point.
ma'am. I can
Okay,
see the
all right.
your presentation.
Okay, so I will continue with this. So
Yes, ma'am.
today's presentation is about how you can grow your own micro farm, and especially in this monsoon season which is coming up. So, well, you must have heard a lot of words: Nachu eco farming, Amrut Krishi Vigyan, Jaivik Kheti, organic farming, permaculture, natural farming, Sendriya Kheti, as we call it, ecosystem gardening, wildlife gardening. All of these words, as I studied over the years, I've studied Amrut Krishi Vigyan with Sir Deepak Ji Sachde. He's no more, but it was such a pleasure interacting with him and learning from him, and permaculture as well. All of these are, if they say, they're all God by different names. So it's just one and the same thing. The foundation remains the same for most of them. Small techniques here and there are different. See here on the slideshow, you will see that it's a picture of a food forest. It's a living web. As we all know, that in a dense, say, a deciduous forest, there is nobody goes to fertilize it, nobody goes to harvest anything, nobody goes to cut it, prune it, nothing. But if you see the jungles of Amazon, or you see the jungles in the foothills of the Himalayas and all, they are thriving in the absence of humanity. Why are they thriving? Because it is an enriched ecosystem. It's a functional ecosystem that is there. It's an intricate balance of living organisms, biotic life that is there. So if you just look at a tree, for example, if you look at a deciduous tree, then the deciduous tree will shed its leaves in the usually in winters, and those leaves will fall on the floor, as you can see over here. I am looking for I think there was an option of how you can use a laser pointer. Yes, right there. So the trees will lose their leaves, and it will drop on this floor over here. So when it drops on the floor, there will be microorganisms, there will be earthworms, there will be other insects that will be there, and they will all come here to eat it. So that is there. Once it breaks down further, it will be broken down and it will be absorbed into the lower layers of the earth. In those lower layers, microbes again will break it down further. Azobacter bacteria are there, rhizobacters are there. There are so many different types of fungi and bacteria that are there, which will break it down even further into molecules, into different elements of the whole leaf that was present. Slowly, as it is broken down, whatever is required by the tree will be absorbed again by its root system that has developed. Look at the network of this tree that is there, the network of the root system that is there. It is so dense. So all of that will be, again, some of it will be absorbed by the tree. The remaining will be left out over here. The other insects and all will eat it. And some form of life will again grow into this. So in this intense active zone that is there, there is a life form. There are many life forms that are eating, excreting. There are enzymes that are going on in this space down here. There are dead bodies that are decaying, and there is excreta that is decaying. So from all of that, there is a rich environment that is formed, and through this rich environment, everybody gets food, and there is enough for everyone to eat and reproduce. So when you think about an ecosystem, such an ecosystem, a natural ecosystem, is what we try to emulate even in when we are doing organic farming. So this is a plan, this is an architecture plan of Upaj farm that is there. This is a 2-hectare space that we have. As you can see, this is north, south, east, west. We have a thick high tension line that passes through the south border. And the rest of it, this whole system is designed according to the levels that are there. So this front spot is the lowest of them all. So we have a water harvesting pond over here, which is used to collect all the rainwater that drains off from this space into this, as well as this space into this. It helps us a lot, as it over the years it has increased the water table that is there, which in turn has helped us in the bore that we have right over here. Also, because of this water harvesting well that we have, the salt in the content of the underground water has changed. The TDS has become more acceptable. The water has become less harsh over the years. It is now 10 years that we have been here. As you can see, you will see a lot of trees that are there. There are mixed trees. We have mangoes, we have banana, we have papaya, we have small berries like falsa, we have lemon, we have guava. So it's an ecosystem which is rich in lot of the whole rich in biodiversity in terms of the variety of trees that we have. The whole border is there, and the whole border has, you know, wild trees like, say for example, bear and amla and all of those. So the whole plot is divided into zones, and this is what it is. This is the kind of activities that we do over here at Upaj Farm. As you can see, children can visit. There are others who can visit. We also sell our vegetables. This is the mango tree that is there. This is the mango sale from last year. I'll take you to the next slide. Why I'm showing you this is that in a ecosystem, any one element does not do only one job. For example, a tree does not only give fruit, it also gives shade. It also becomes a habitat for birds and animals who can find shade on the top of the tree, in the bark of the tree. It also becomes a habitat in its root system. So a tree, for example, does not only have one role to fulfill, it has many roles to fulfill. Similarly, in our farm, we do a lot of activities. We do workshops, we hold festivals, we teach, we also grow, obviously, organically and everything. There are water harvesting systems and, you know, natural ecosystems that are set up to help us, and that is what it is. So why I showed you this example was that we are looking at a balanced ecosystem. Right now, if you think about COVID, then COVID has spread because there is an imbalance. It has taken over, and that's why it is such a large problem for the entire planet. And that's why it's become a pandemic, because it has overpowered everything else. When we think about how we want to live in this planet, we want to live in harmony with the rest of the ecosystems that are there. We want to live in harmony with Mother Nature. We want that everybody eats, and along with them, we also eat. So when such ecosystems are emulated and patterns are created in the entire city, then a smart city can be built on that. Similarly, when small such systems are created, for example, inside an urban home, for example, now coming down to the micro farm that we want to talk about. So this is a picture of a typical house that is there, and you can see about 8 feet of land is usually left at home between the compound wall that is there and the house. So that is by the rule you have to leave, I think, about 8 to 10 feet that you have to leave. And this is a small urban garden micro farm that is created in this. What all have we added? One is that, you know, there is already an existing tree, berry tree, that is there over here. Now that tree is there, and we will not touch that tree because it also helps in giving shade to the house. It's located in the south, and this is the house. So the afternoon sun, it really helps in giving shade to this house in the afternoon sun when it is most required, which in turn will also keep its electricity consumption low. We have also added some wildflowers over here. Of course, we all need flowers for puja and, you know, for beauty, for fragrance. There are a lot of reasons why we should have flowers around us. They also become food, and they also become nectar. They also provide nectar for birds and bees. We also have, as you can see down here, we also have an organic patch which is growing the seasonal produce for that year. After that, we have a compost bin over here. Right here is a compost bin that is there. And this is the kitchen. So whatever waste that comes out of your kitchen is to be thrown into this compost bin that is there. And it goes right from here to here, and look at the cycle that we have created, which is so small. From here, it goes right here. From this churning wind that is there, it comes right over here. So such a small footprint that is there. Otherwise, what do? We put it in this kala plastic bag and we wait so that the next morning the municipal corporation will pick it up and take it to some landfill. What have we done to it? Something that is so easily biodegradable. We have put in a plastic bag and we have given it to somebody. We've added miles on it, first of all, because it has to be carried. It has to be carried with a fuel-loaded truck, to another place which is distant, and then it just is dumped over there without being segregated. So it then loses its charm and loses its nutrient content because it is closed in a plastic bag. Whereas so simply from a kitchen to a compost bin and straight from the compost bin to the garden. And this is a small cycle which really needs to be executed in everybody's homes wherever possible. We generally also have a water body outside over here like this. A water body is required for birds, for bees, for other animals and insects. So, our home is not only a home for us, it is also a home for other living creatures that are there. And most importantly, especially in summers, we use something called a mulch. I don't know if you've all heard about this, but mulching is the most important technique that is there. Mulch is nothing but basically just adding one layer of, say, dried leaves or something to your soil. So that is a typical edible Eden garden that you can make. I will show you. This is a small live this thing that we have done. As you can see, this lady is beginning to do the farming, and it's a 20 feet by 25 feet plot that is there. And as you can see, we have made a raised bed. This is a raised bed that is there about 4 feet. This is about 4 feet of raised bed. The different kinds of beds that we have added for different kind of crops that we want to grow. So please note that it's only a 25 feet by 20 feet plot that is there. And we started working on it, say, last year after the floods. So it must have been in middle of August. So she started planting. You can see the palak has already come up in the patch behind. She has also planted some flowers that are there, which are now coming up, as you can see, slowly. And she's tying all of these trellises that are there in the month of, say, September. By the month of October, her flowers have started blooming. As you can see, the hedge has started blooming. She's here. She's brought a bunch of her friends to pluck. She has so much salad leaves that she has grown already that she has got her friends to, pluck the spinach and the other leaves and all that she has that year. And this is what it was. If you remember, I showed you 20 feet by 20 feet. Only in 4 months, we have gone from a barren piece of land, and this is a picture taken in December 2019. The first picture I showed you was from August 2019, and this is December 2019. And in less than 4 months, if I'm saying, then these patches, just a small piece of land, can you see how fruitful this piece of land is? Not only is this satisfying, it is, it sort of satisfies your soul because it is way beyond what you have expected. Mother Nature gives you back so much that you are overwhelmed with, what you can grow in just 500 square feet of this small pot that is there. Look at the variety, the biodiversity that we have in this, If you can see here, we have balsam as the hedge. In the back, we have cosmos as the hedge. These are both flowers. We need them to invite more birds and bees. This is a small spinach and fenugreek, coriander, amaranth, lettuce. All of these different kinds of leafy vegetables are all grown in this patch over here. In this middle row, we have chili, brinjal. In this row, we have tomatoes right here. In this row, we have turnip, broccoli, beet, radish. So see, the first row is all leafy veggies. The last row is all root vegetables that are planted over here. And she has taken a fantastic crop. On the sides, on this side, we have bottle gourd and sponge gourd going up as trellis. So this is what a rent-a-farm at Upaj looks like, and that can be emulated anywhere. and I'll show you how you can do it. So these are just some basics that you could do. When you want to start a kitchen garden, how will you start it? First of all, most importantly, you have to look at the availability of sunlight that is there in your home or wherever that you are planning to plant. So sunlight available, if it is available for 3 hours, then you can go for leafy greens. If it is available for 6 hours, then you can go for fruiting vegetables as well. The sun direction you have to see, because harsh sunlight, especially south facing, if your balcony is south facing, then it will need some cover, especially in the months of summers, in the summer months. Water should also be available very simply, very easily around. And of course, it should be very much in your mind. Not out of sight is generally out of mind, and it's not a good practice. You should have it where you can see it every day. You know, if you're having a cup of chai, it should be right there so you can go and see it. This is the size of a small garden that is there. Size is very important. If you're trying for the first time, go for a very, very small garden, say 4 feet by 4 feet. You will be amazed at how much you can grow in a 4 feet by 4 feet garden. Like I said, soil is a living entity, and there are a lot of there's a different kind of life forms that are there. Fungi, microbes, mushrooms are there. There are so many different arthropods are there. So there are so many different kinds of lives that are there. And as we have become more used to living in urban areas, we are so intolerant of all of this life. Even if we see ants in our home, you will bring out your big hit bottle and you will go after it like you are this you are in a battle with these people. So whereas very simply, if you just want to get rid of it, there are very, very simple techniques that you can use and you can get rid of them. So this is once again soil. We are stressing on soil so much because it is the foundation of your garden, and it is very important as to you respect all life forms, especially on this this World Environment Day, because this World Environment Day stresses the importance of biodiversity, and this is the biodiversity that we require in our little organic small garden that we can make. With all of that, what we are looking for in a good garden soil is that a good garden soil should have air in the soil. It should not be very compact. When the Mali comes home and a god mare che, to god suka mare che, because he wants that the air should be able to penetrate in the lower layers of the, and it should be available at the root zone of the plant. Water should be available. Of course, overwatering is never a solution. Overwatering tends to damage the roots. It causes fungal diseases. It also tends to drown the roots. It's like us. If you put us in a whole tank of water, you just submerge us. Will we be able to survive it? No, we won't be able to survive it. So similarly, even plants can't survive it like that. So we will need air at the bottom. We will need water. We will need living organisms that will be there. We will need inorganic matter in the form of minerals, salts, rocks, etc. And we will need something called humus. Humus is something that is created in a forest over years of time. But humus is nothing but the compost that we create in our own home, which can be created from whatever is left out. And after you have put on your plot, the most important thing that we are not doing is mulching. Mulching, as you can see, these are neat rows of plants that are there. And in between the rows, this grass that is there, the dried grass that is so important. One, because we don't want any soil to be exposed. Soil should not be exposed to the sun because it is not in its nature. If you expose the soil, it will start growing weeds on its own because its nature is to grow something. So we cover it with something called mulch. It helps in reducing the weeds. It helps in keeping the soil temperature low. It also helps in maintaining water at a lower level. How will you make this kind of soil in your own home? You create it by volume. Say, for example, you take 1/3 volume of garden soil that you have, 1/3 volume of vermiculite. Or vermiculite is nothing but just a growing medium that is there to just soften it. Sometimes the soil that you have is not porous. Left on its own, it will tend to bind and become hard. So you use something like vermiculite, or you use something like say coir or coco peat or something which keeps it light. So 1/3 volume you take garden soil, 1/3 volume you take vermiculite, and 1/3 volume you take compost that is available from a garden. You mix it all, and your garden soil is available for you. Now here is all about composting, how you can make your own compost. Sometimes people make a heap like this, and you can just have layers of dried soil, dried leaves that you are cutting, grass that you are cutting. Then you can add a layer of again some manure that is available, and you just keep making a heap like this. They're about 4 feet wide and 10 feet long, and over a period of time it will uh, decompose, and it will become great organic compost for your garden. So some people also use something called pit composting, in which they keep dumping everything into the pit. That is a little hard to manage, I feel, because since it's a pit, you have to mix it up. It becomes difficult. Aeration is not possible, and if you overwater, then be sure to invite rats, and be sure that it will start rotting, because of which anaerobic bacteria come, and foul smell is there. Whereas in open heap sort of composting, you will never have foul smell. It will always be aerated, and good bacteria will be decomposing it. So what's a good recipe for composting? You will need say carbon rich material, which is dried leaves, hay, wood shavings, paper, etc. And you will need nitrogen rich material, which is grass clippings, food, vegetables, scraps, etc. In the ratio of 3:1. So if you have 3x volume of carbon, you will need 1x volume of nitrogen. And there are many types of composting bins that are available. There are drums like this that are available. There are kumbhas like this that are available. And a lot of people have done research now, and you will find something available at a nursery, local nursery near you. The next thing that you need to understand is understanding the crop cycle. Now, crops, for example, most of the crops that you will be growing will be annuals. So annuals meaning that they are from seed to seed, it will go in only 1 year. So for example, leafy vegetables, root vegetables, fruiting vegetables, pod vegetables, trellising vegetables, all of this will go from seed to flowering, fruiting, and once again seed formation in just 1 year. So you have to sow them every year. So every season you have to start with it like that. It doesn't stay forever. It is not like other perennial plants that it will stay forever. They are annuals, and they keep dying off. So you have to plant once again. There are lots of other crops that you can grow, like herbs and flowers, and all of this can be grown in your own home, in your own garden, by making different kinds of beds and sowing at the right time. Organic pest management is also very easy to do. There are simple techniques like companion planting that is there. For companion plants, as you know, that there are some plants which do well with each other. For example, marigolds do very well as companion plants for, say, tomatoes. So tomatoes and marigolds, if planted together, then tomatoes tend to have lesser diseases that are there, because it helps the other one. The next organic pest management is that crop rotation, that you do crop rotation. For crop rotation, what you have to do is that in the same piece of land, we don't plant the same crop in the next season. So for example, in this, say, southwest, we have planted tomatoes this year. In the next season, we will not plant tomatoes here. Instead, we will plant something else. What we do in crop rotation generally is that we first start with legumes. Legumes like peas, French beans, etc. And they help a lot because they help in establishing the nitrogen through their nematodes in the soil. So once the legumes are removed, in the next round, if you plant any kind of, say, leafy vegetables or something like that, the soil is rich in nitrogen, and so you don't have to add any chemicals or any form of other nitrogen that is there. So crop rotation, if done wisely, it really helps in the next successive crop that is there. Some plants also help by becoming a trap themselves. Also, there are mechanical ways of pest control. For example, there are different kinds of traps that are there, for birds or for birds. Actually, birds are predators in your garden, and they are most welcomed because they tend to eat up all the insects, extra insects and all that are growing in it, and it's a happy bird. It's a happy ecosystem of itself. It helps in controlling, keeping the insect population under check so that it doesn't overpower and overwhelm the soil. So insects, birds are very, very welcomed to your garden, and also they tend to scratch with their beak. They go beak, so they go in and they sort of eat it. Biological alternatives are also there for pest management. So some of the predators, they help in keeping the others off, like that. So and also eventually we will need something that is there, So neem is one of the favorite organic biopesticide that is there. Neem oil extract is there. Azadirachta indica is what it is, and I hope you know where the name comes from. It's Azad Darakte Hind, and that's where the name azadirachtin comes from for neem. And the extract of neem does fantastic to repel pests, and it can be used freely in your garden because there are no side effects of it. Sometimes we end up spraying it every alternate day for the whole season because it keeps the whole population of insect pests under control. You can also use simple techniques like fermented buttermilk. It helps to get rid of white flies and aphids also, a simple concoction of chili and garlic. So that also helps a lot in keeping a lot of pests away. You can simply just take a bottle of water and chili garlic paste you make, and a little 1 spoonful of chili garlic paste you make, and you let it be in that 1 liter of water overnight. The next morning, you can strain the mixture, strain the water, and dilute it further with another 10 liters of water, and you spray it in your garden, and that will do an amazing help to your garden. These are simple techniques that we've been using, and this is what we are able to produce with such simple techniques that we use. We have never used any pesticide. The only the nutrition that we used are all organic only. So they're either compost of some form or manures of some form or something. As you can see, we have grown so many different varieties. You can see broccolis that are there in exotics. You can see red turnip is there, kohlrabi is there. So all of these are there, and they're all winter crops. Last year we were selling the produce, and this is our winter crop. This is our summer crop that is there. People ask me, what are you growing this summer? Summer mein to kya ugta hai? Kuch nahi ugta hai. But you will be surprised at how your land, gives you back with the number of fruits that it can grow, the amount of vegetables that you can grow. So of course there are summer vegetables that are there, and you have to be very specific of what you plant in what season. So that is definitely there. This is another garden that is cultivated. Notice how this gentleman is starting off with just plain sand. Like this is just after the floods. As you can see, you can still see that the soil is still inundated in water. And last year, if you remember, 31st July, around 31st July, we had this massive rainfall, and then till 15th August, the whole of Baroda city was flooding. And we started after that, and see, it has dried up a little bit, and he has come, and this is his first day in his garden that is there. And again, like that lady, we built different kinds of beds once again, and you can see him bending down and working in his garden. Slowly his flowers have also started to bloom, and he continues to work he has treated his tomatoes differently. He's added these trellises that are there, and the cages for tomatoes. He's added these trellises for some climbers himself. He's making this thing in his own. Why I'm trying to show you these pictures is because it is, having a garden is endless work. And if you're involved in it, and if you enjoy that kind of work that is there, you will be so surprised with what you will receive at the end of this. This is his garden at the end. He's brought his friend along to see, who's so surprised, and he can't believe what all is coming out of this. So this is the small garden that he has sown, as you saw. From spinach to bottle gourds go on this trellis. So up here, over here, which is not there in the photo, cauliflower, some petunias he's planted. Some beans are going up on that trellis in the back. There's bitter gourd that is going up in the trellis in the back. There is again a hedge of balsam. In the middle, you can see broccoli and spinach and tomato that is growing. Cherry tomato up here, brinjal, beet, radish, lettuce, carrots. So much in just 20 feet by 25 feet. There is just 500 square foot of land. And this much this person has been able to grow, and that too in just one season. So if everybody has a garden, there is nothing more rewarding than growing your own food. It actually gives you back the amount of energy you put in, you will get back that much. These are little larger plots that are there. This is 60 feet by 100 feet plot for bhindis that are there. It's an okra plantation at Upaj Farm. This is a banana circle. A lot of us have common plots that are there, and in common plots there is land which is just lying there vacant for for decades, just like that. Nobody wants to do anything about it. But if you grow some fruit trees inside, you will not only get the harvest for yourself, it will also become a very active and a very positive kind of activity for everybody in the whole society even. So a banana circle is something that can be grown very easily. It is just, you just dig a pit about 2 feet deep, and whatever soil is there, you take it on the side up here. Bananas are heavy feeders, and they demand a lot of water and compost and everything. So by digging the pit in the center, what you have to do is that space you have created so that you can keep adding compost and biomass and everything inside it. On the outer side that you have created, you can plant some rhizomes of bananas. You can add some lemongrass that is there. You can even add some sweet potatoes in a favorable season like now. You can even add arbi, taro that we call. That also you can grow. So all of this in a small space of say 10 feet by 10 feet, in which you keep adding your compost from your home. So you don't have to make a compost heap as such, and you can add water and everything in this pit itself. And this whole small system of bananas, you can have at least 4 banana plants growing in this, and it will be a very, very rewarding experience for you, because you will not only enjoy eating the bananas, you will enjoy the process to the bananas much more than anything like this. Edibles also do very well in small patches of homes. As you can see, this is a small edible garden corner that is there, and so many things can be added in a small patch like this in your home itself. There are small trellises that you can make like this, and again, this is an edible garden, and how much you can derive out of this. These are some beds that are there, and as you can see, some people also like to lay down some drip irrigation systems, and that is also smartly put down, and it's a very fruitful technique to have. This is a small edible backyard that is there. It's just 10 meters by 14 meters, and lots can be grown if it is planned well. You can have berries and fruit trees and everything around. You can have herbs. This is a design of a food forest that is there. Now, a concept of food forest is something that has always been around, but now we design it and we execute it. So, it's a nice food forest, which means that only edibles will be sown. There'll be trees that will be there, and you can also have annual crops that are there, all grown in this piece of land, so that you can harvest and, take whatever is there. So, well, this is with this, we come back to the end of this this particular show presentation that I have. I would also like to check on the time that is there. And Rajeshri ma'am, do we have time for this, or should we go ahead with?
Yes, ma'am. We have 15 minutes.
Oh,
Avni ma'am. Avni ma'am,
yes,
you can
ma'am.
share your
Show
videos.
some videos.
And by showing
Okay.
the videos, I would like to request all the participant, if you have any query or any question, you can write your questions in the chat box so that we can ask the question to the Avni ma'am. Avni ma'am, now
Okay.
you
So
can
I'll
share
just
your.
show you. Okay. All right. So I'll just show you some videos of what we've done. Remove my earplugs so you can hear it.
Avni ma'am,
Yes.
can you hear me? Yeah. You can stop your video after this.
Okay. Okay. Yes, Rajeshri ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. One question is from students. He asked that I have seen your Upaj farm. You have planted the different types of plant in a small areas. Is there any importance of doing like this, these types of gardening?
Yes, that is the whole presentation, that we go with a lot of biodiversity, because when you do monocropping, in monocropping, what happens is that you have just one kind of crop in the whole field, say 10 acres, or 50 acres or something like that. And in those 50 acres, suppose you are growing only bhindi, for example. So
Hmm.
you will make your beds also like that. You will install drip irrigation system also like that. You will feed chemical, pesticides and everything also, because you're expecting a certain kind of disease that will probably come in.
Hmm.
So what happens is that there is just one kind of disease which will come, and it will be so overwhelming for the farmer that he will
Hmm.
not be able to control it. Whereas in a small area, if you have different kinds of crops that are there, there will never
Hmm.
be an overwhelming pest disease that will be there. There will always, of
Oh,
course, there will be diseases, there will be pests that are eating your plants, and there will be fungus diseases, and these attack and that attack. But you will be able to control it because it is not spread through the entire field. You will never need harsh chemicals because it will be in a small area, and you will be able to protect your crops. So that is the reason why we use different kinds of different cultivars, and we add so much variety in a small garden.
okay. Next question is which type of pesticides are used in organic farming? Is there any pesticides?
Uh, yes, so there are organic pesticides which are neem based pesticides mostly. So that kind of pesticide is there, and that's the most important one. We also use traps that are there. So we have traps like uh, which are based for a certain kind of insect. So there are pheromone traps. So for example, there is Lucina, this thing which is there in which is very prevalent in, it's a fruit borer fly that is there, and it comes very easily for fruiting vegetables like brinjals and bottle gourds and all those. So for that we have a physical trap that is there, pheromone trap, and the
Okay.
insect gets trapped inside that.
Okay. Now
Next
next
question.
question is that yeah, what is multi-layer farming?
Multi-layer farming.
Yeah.
I also don't know what multi-layer farming is. So
Okay.
if
Now,
there is a, yeah.
Okay, so no problem. The
Maybe
next
vertical
question,
farming. Maybe vertical farming.
uh, he asked about the multi-layer farming. You can explain the vertical layer farming also.
Vertical farming is just something in which you use, instead of the horizontal surface, you use the vertical surface. It is very
Okay.
important and it can be used very easily in densely populated areas like cities like Bombay, Bangalore, and all, where the flat
Hmm.
land is less and you have more of vertical land. So that is vertical farming that is there.
Okay. And next question is you have shown the one of the picture like permaculture garden base. The one of the students asked that the what is the permaculture, ma'am?
Yes. So permaculture is the short form it is permaculture. Otherwise, it is called permanent agriculture. So
Okay.
permaculture is just initially I said that there are different techniques like organic. We call something called organic farming, or natu
Okay.
eco farming, or say Amrit Krishi. So similarly, it's a technical field which is called permaculture, and it is very easily available now. People can study it. There are a lot of online courses that are there, and you can study it.
Mhm. Is that permaculture is possible to implement practically
Yes,
or
ma'am. What we are growing at Upaj Farm is permaculture only. So it
okay.
helps in giving you an overall perspective of the place that you
Mm.
have. You will be able to design your, all your resources, say water that is available to
Mm.
you, manure that is available to you, or if you have some kind of cattle or something like that. It will give you an overall perspective of your entire farm, and it will help you in
Okay.
that way.
Next question is that as we say that the organic products are more expensive compared to the other products. So what are the importance of this organic product so that people can purchase these types of organic product?
Uh, Ma'am,
Means,
obviously they are not writing what they're using in those other kind of products. See, organic,
hmm,
you have to say organic because the others are not writing what they are using.
hmm,
So, also organic is grown without use of any pesticide and anything like that. So it is definitely not harmful to you. In the long
okay.
term, in the health, now if you see, a lot of people are getting a lot of allergies and everything. Who
Hmm,
knows how it comes from, how it has
yeah.
become so common in people and all. So
Yes. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. This is the all about the question and answer regarding the students. Now, I would like to conclude the session here. I thank you again, Avni ma'am, for giving the informative and valuable session and wonderful session, and also giving her valuable time. I also thankful to all the participants for giving their valuable time. Thank you, ma'am.
thank you, ma'am.
Um, Brijesh sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for having me. It was a wonderful time. And you can visit Upaj Farm and like us on our Insta and Facebook page if you like. Thank you very
Sure,
much.
ma'am.
Thank you.
Yeah, we will